Ever stood in a storm, felt the ground shake from thunder, and, just for a second, felt incredibly small? Imagine experiencing that for the first time, with no science to explain it. That feeling, that awe and terror, is where our story begins today. This is the story of how ancient humans, surrounded by a world they couldn't control, first met their gods. Welcome back to our journey through human history. We've mastered fire, we've crafted tools, but there are forces far greater than us at play. Picture this: you're a Stone Age hunter. A sudden lightning strike splits a massive tree in two. A flash flood washes away your camp. The sun beats down, withering the plants you rely on. What do you do when faced with such overwhelming, unpredictable power? You can't fight it. You can't outrun it. So, you try to understand it. But, without the language of physics or meteorology, you use the language you have. The language of intention, of personality, of spirit. That powerful, unseen force that brings the rain. It must be a spirit. That brilliant, life-giving orb in the sky. It must be a god. This is the critical moment, the first step: observation. Humans saw patterns and power in the world around them and gave them a face. The sun became a radiant deity, bringing warmth and life. The moon, a mysterious guardian of the night. The storm, a temperamental god, capable of both fury and life-giving water. These weren't just stories. They were the first scientific theories of humankind. They were an attempt to impose order on chaos, to explain the unexplainable. It was a world alive, with 1,000 different wills, 1,000 different gods, born from the forests, the rivers, and the skies. But what good is knowing there are gods if you can't interact with them? This leads to the next logical step: experimentation. If the storm god is angry, maybe we can appease it. If the sun god is benevolent, maybe we can thank it to ensure its return. And so, the first offerings were made. A portion of a successful hunt left on a sacred stone, a collection of beautiful, rare flowers placed by a life-giving spring, a simple prayer whispered to the sky before a long journey. These were humanity's first experiments in diplomacy with the cosmos. It was a negotiation. We give you this, you powerful spirit, and in return, please grant us a safe hunt, a good harvest, or spare us from the flood. It was a transaction rooted in hope and a deep-seated need for some measure of control, or at least influence, over their own destiny. They were learning, through trial and error, how to speak to the forces that governed their lives. Of course, these experiments didn't always work. The rains didn't always come, despite the most fervent prayers. Sickness still struck, even after the most precious offerings were made. The hunt sometimes failed. Now, you might think this would lead to disillusionment, to a loss of faith. But something fascinating happened. Failure didn't extinguish belief. In many cases, it deepened it. This is step 3. The realization of failure and the strengthening of faith. If the prayer wasn't answered, it wasn't because the god didn't exist. It was because the offering wasn't good enough. The prayer wasn't sincere enough. The ritual wasn't performed correctly. This thought process is crucial. It places the responsibility back on the human, preserving the power and mystery of the divine. The gods weren't fallible, we were. This paradox is the engine of religion. It created a cycle of continuous effort and devotion. We must try harder. We must be more pious. We must find the right way to please the gods. This led to the standardization of worship, the refinement of rituals. It wasn't just about leaving a piece of fruit anymore. It was about how you left it, when you left it, and the words you said as you did. And this brings us to step 4, the mastery of ritual. Through generations of trial, error, and shared knowledge, practices became traditions. Rituals were born. Specific chants, specific dances, specific times of the year, for celebration and sacrifice. These weren't just random acts, they were a shared technology of hope. When a community came together to perform a ritual for a good harvest, they weren't just praying. They were reinforcing their social bonds. They were sharing a common goal and a common vocabulary to face the world's uncertainty. The shaman, the priestess, the elder, these figures emerged as specialists, the keepers of this sacred knowledge. They were the intermediaries between the human and the divine, the guides who knew the correct path to win favor from the unseen world. And here's the key. Sometimes it worked. The rains did come. The hunt was successful. The tribe survived a harsh winter. In those moments, the belief was powerfully validated. The rituals weren't just superstition. They were a proven method for survival. This positive reinforcement cemented faith into the very bedrock of the culture. Religion wasn't just a belief system. It was a survival strategy. Which leads us to our final, crucial point. The ultimate punchline of this entire spiritual journey. In a world filled with constant danger and terrifying unknowns, belief gave humans something invaluable: peace. It provided a sense of order in a chaotic universe. It offered comfort in times of loss and a sense of purpose in the face of a vast, silent cosmos. Belief wasn't about being right or wrong in a scientific sense. It was about finding the psychological strength to get up every morning and face a world that could end you in 1,000 different ways. It was the original coping mechanism. It transformed paralyzing fear into manageable reverence. It gave humans a narrative, a place in the universe, and a reason to hope. Before we could explain the world, we had to find a way to live in it. And belief was the key. This deep, spiritual awakening didn't just stay in the realm of chants and offerings. It needed to be expressed, to be made permanent. This explosion of belief and ritual unlocked another fundamental human trait: the need to create. The gods needed a form, and our stories needed a canvas. And that's where we're headed next. From the birth of belief to the birth of art. Join us next time as we venture deep into the earth, into the sacred darkness of the earliest art galleries, and explore the meaning behind the magnificent cave paintings. Thank you so much for joining us on this journey today. If you enjoyed this exploration into our distant past, please hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss our next adventure. We'll see you next time.